Dating apps were supposed to fix dating. Instead, 78% of users say they feel emotionally, mentally, or physically exhausted by swiping. Gen Z isn't falling in love, they're burning out. So what does the world's most downloaded dating app do? They will soon let AI go through your entire camera roll.
You are what's in your camera roll, right? It is a treasure trove of your past experiences.
This is Mark Kantor, head of product at Tinder, and he says the era of endless swiping is over. He claims their goal at Tinder is for you to delete the app, because that means you found love.
If the goal is to genuinely make someone delete the app of Tinder, then shouldn't the default screen be my messages instead of more swiping options?
Yeah, it's a great question.
I talk to many people that seem to just be over dating apps, but will new AI tools actually save them? This is what's Uptin on how dating could change as we know it.
Tinder has a new AI-powered feature which will use insights from your camera roll photos. What kind of insights are we talking about here?
So that feature is still in development right now, but we know that you are what's in your camera roll, right? It is a treasure trove of your past experiences. So we're doing a couple of different things with camera roll. The first one that is currently live is to help people during the profile creation process. Mm-hmm. So the average person now, the average Gen Z, has tens of thousands of photos in their camera roll, sometimes even more. And picking those photos can be stressful and time consuming, and people would rather spend the time actually chatting with people and getting off the app. So the first feature we have that is camera roll related is essentially with the user's permission, looking through their camera roll. It's all an on-device model, so we are not actually storing that data. And then we make a handful of suggestions of photos that we think would perform well and that would be high quality. We show them to the user, and we've gone from, you've got 70,000 photos in your camera roll. Well, you probably have hundreds of thousands. And then we're saying, hey, how about these 12? We think these 12 would work well. And then people can select those. Okay. But camera roll is really this thing that we continue to push into because there is so much amazing information there, but we haven't yet released kind of the next wave.
Okay. So is it primarily going to be used for picking the best photos for my profile, or is it also going to say, hey, you really like skateboarding, you really like coffee?
So you're ahead of the game here. We are actively working on a version where we extract insights from your camera roll. And there's a couple of important things to note that. So what we do is, with the user's permission, of course, we can look through the camera roll. From that, we can actually use vision to see where you've been, hobbies, if you've got pets, if you're a foodie, those types of things. We then surface those insights to the user and say, hey, this is what we've learned about you. There's 73 things we've learned. And the user has the ability to look at those things and always get back to those insights. If there are things that are inaccurate or just things that they wouldn't want to share, they can remove them. And then we use that data to help personalize the experience for them and give them recommendations that might have commonalities. And we're not there yet, but I can see a world in which you match with somebody and you have the empty chat, and the empty chat is a challenge, right? So we'd like to fix the empty chat and instead highlight things that we've learned about you that might help spark conversation.
Like this person has a dog or something like that?
I think we can certainly start there. That's kind of like the easy stuff, really. But for you, you're a world traveler. And I think that we can get to a point where we understand that you've been to 23 countries in the last 6 months. And that's something that a match of yours would probably really love to know. And it's difficult for most people to introduce themselves, to advocate for themselves without bragging, right? Like if you meet somebody, it's hard to say, hey, just so you know, Jennifer, I've been to 23 countries in the last 6 months alone. But AI can kind of do that for you a little bit. So what we're hoping to be able to do is not just do you've got a dog and you like pizza and you go to the beach, but also understand specifically maybe where you've gone, the number of places you've gone.
You're going through a paddle phase right now or something.
Yeah, recency is really important too, right? So, which is what makes this so fun and challenging, is that your camera roll has stuff from 15 years ago, probably, it's no longer relevant for us. And we need to know what's relevant and what's not relevant. But if the last 10 weeks of photos have 80 photos of you playing a certain sport. Clearly, this is something that like is interesting to you, and you probably have some stories and you want to bond over that. We might even be able to understand, are you a night owl? Are you taking photos at 2 a.m.? Because that's like says something about who you are.
It's very interesting because when I went to college, I remember they asked us 3 questions. They said, are you clean or messy? Do you sleep, early, medium, which is 10 to 12, or late, past midnight? And I think the third one was, do you smoke or do you not smoke? And based on those 3 questions, they assigned us a random roommate. And I remember there was another university that would ask like 70 or 80 questions. And the retention rate between freshman year and sophomore year of those continuing to live with that person was like, maybe I think over 70% compared to my university, which was maybe like 20%. And I always thought that was so interesting when you can use data to complement matches, right? And not necessarily people who are always picking the same answers, but complementary to that. And I always thought the swiping game was interesting because I'm like, there's so much data that I can volunteer. And now, of course, AI is very exciting when it comes to dating apps. So do you think we're going to see like the end of swiping when we have so much, AI that can just speed up this process?
That's I love this roommate example, by the way. And I feel like you just invented the camera roll roommate, finder. But yeah, so ultimately for us, our goal is to get people to find connection as soon as possible, have fun conversations, get off the app, and have a great time. And I do think that with more information, we're able to personalize the experience better and should ultimately lead to fewer swipes, less time spent, and kind of the quicker kind of path to that connection. So yeah, I mean, I think we have this feature, since you're a traveler and you get to Australia, New Zealand, you can check it out there. And it's called Chemistry. And the point there is we ask a series of questions. It's about 5 to 10 a day. These are fun.
Every day, like every new day, you ask more questions.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And the goal is to really learn more about who you are, what you want, really get in there and try to understand the nuance of the person, and go beyond the like, I like soccer, I like movies, right? These are like very general. And then based on that, we're able to take more and more of that information and give you a highly, highly personalized recommendation that will, can be the first thing you do when you open Tinder. So I can imagine that there are people out there that don't want to swipe and they want to open up Tinder. They want to get their daily recommendation, see it, and be express interest or not, and then they can leave. And when they come back the next day, and they can get their personalized recommendation again too. So for us, ultimately our goal is to help people find connection, get off the app, meet IRL as quick as possible. And AI has, I think, really given us this leg up and this ability to disrupt ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting to hear you say get off the app. You don't hear many people in Silicon Valley or anywhere in the world say, my goal is for you to delete the app. How do you play that balance with driving revenue and users? Is it just make this so successful that the next wave of singles or people looking for friends just want to use it because it's so effective and you're okay with them deleting it?
I think that's pretty much there, is that if you know that coming to Tinder is going to give you success and you can get the app on a Monday and meet somebody great just a couple of days later, I think that's tremendous. And if you churn because you've had success, that is a huge success story for us. And we know that Tinder is often people's first dating app. It is like a rite of passage. They turn 18, they get Tinder. Now, some people meet their favorite person when they're 18, but many people have to go through, a number of relationships. So, the hope for us is if we can get really, really good at helping people find connection quickly. You get the app when you're 18 or 19, you find connection. If you remove the app because you found connection, great. But we know some relationships are not going to last forever. And if they know that experience was positive, they'll likely come back and tell their friends. And ultimately, if we have to change and evolve our business model, I think that's like a huge success story for us. I used to be in gaming, and in gaming, oftentimes we would actually try to get people to spend as much time as possible. And what I love about working at Tinder is that it is the opposite. We're really trying to give people a fun experience, but one in which they are spending more of their time actually talking and interacting with people, and then again getting off the app and having fun.
Do you think we're going to see a day where AI agents are dating each other on Tinder and we don't even know if we're talking to someone's agent or them?
On Tinder, no. I think for me, we really want to keep this experience authentic. I don't personally want to receive messages from an AI. I don't want an AI responding as me. I think there's fun in human connection. There's fun in that. I think that we can use AI instead to help spark conversations, highlight information, like when you get to that match that would be fun to talk about. You've got friends in common. You've traveled to these countries. You both play rec soccer that people would want to have. I think we would kind of be depriving people if we are like outsourcing that to AI agents.
Okay, so when you think about dating, there's the obvious compatibility, right? Maybe let's say, is it age, smoking, location, things like that. Then part two, I see it as sort of interest, sense of humor, maybe values, which is like kind of the next stage. The third stage would almost be chemistry, the vibe that you get when you're around them, even pheromones. Do you think like AI can ever get to that stage 3 and really kind of identify if you're a match?
So you use the word vibe, which I'm happy with, because I was going to use it and I thought you'd be frustrated because sometimes it's hard to define what vibe is. But ultimately, I think if we look at where Tinder was a year ago and where Tinder has been, it was a little bit of a photo-centric product that people make quick decisions based on the first photo they see. And we've evolved that and start collecting more information. We now have photo prompts and text prompts, but we can do better and we will do better. I think with camera roll, which is what you really started with, there is the nuance there, right? You really can get a sense of the vibe, and it goes far beyond the movies and love of a same band, and you can really start to understand who a person is. I think we can also start to personalize the experience such that when you're looking at Jenny's profile and I'm looking at Jenny's profile, are we seeing the same thing or are we seeing different things? So those are also things that we're exploring. But I think that with AI and with more information, we can start getting to that vibe part. But ultimately, though, compatibility is difficult. And I think the first thing we can really do is get people into fun conversations and have them kind of work to figure it out.
Interesting. So you're, as head of product, you lead product, design, revenue, and safety. That's a lot of different angles within the company. What happens when those priorities clash? How do you think about product versus revenue?
Yeah. So for us, what we are moving toward is positive outcomes, positive conversations. We call them sparks, right? A really high quality conversation, and nothing can supersede that. So the revenue team is an incredible team, and ultimately we're a business. We have to make money such that we can invest in making the product better and better. But ultimately, if any of their work impacts user outcomes and reduces that, we don't do it. So they know that. It's very, very clear. It's the same across the board. Safety, we often make decisions to make people safer that end up hurting us on a revenue standpoint. We are rolling out a feature called FaceCheck right now, which is required for all users in California, as well as a handful of other countries. It'll be all in the US in the coming months. And it requires all new users to do this video selfie to make sure that they are who they say they are and they're a real person. They only have one account. And that will introduce friction, which if you're really trying to optimize for number of users and amount of time spent, you would never want to introduce any friction into the product. But for us, we are looking at quality over quantity when it comes to that. We, of course, want to find ways to design that feature where people don't get stuck along the way. But ultimately, for us, the priority is on user safety and getting those positive outcomes. And if we have to take revenue hits for that, that's fine, and that's the right kind of long-term decision. What's
the feedback been so far in California? Are people doing the check or kind of putting it off?
Yeah, it's honestly exceeded my expectations. It's a little bit of extra effort, but I think people understand why we're doing it, and it's one of those things that they know that if they participate, it means that everyone else they see on the platform has also participated. So people are getting through it, and we've seen more than a 60% reduction in the behavior, essentially a prevalence of these bots and bad actors. And the number of reports from our users has gone down by more than 40%. So we see people willing to do it because they understand the value of it. And again, this will get better and better. So for our first crack in California, it actually performed kind of way better than expected.
If the goal is to genuinely make someone delete the app of Tinder, then shouldn't like the default screen be my messages instead of more swiping options? I mean, isn't there an inherent dopamine rush that comes from seeing new people?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's actually something that I've asked. I'm 6 months into Tinder. I wondered the same thing. And I think we've actually tested lots of different things. And it turns out when people come to Tinder, oftentimes they will go to their messages first. But we know that people always want to get in there and see more people. One thing that we do that I think it may not be as clear is that often what we're going to be doing more of is making sure that when you open Tinder, the top of that of your Tinder stack are high quality personalized recommendations. So we think it is important that you should check that, but the messages are there too. And I think it's really interesting. And it is something that I think we consistently will come back to and think about whether that is the right thing to do or not.
Yeah, it's almost interesting when you think about paradox of choice. It becomes an issue, right? Not just for the people using the app, but for people who, for people who use the app, it's like there's so many choices. I remember, I think it was 2012, I read an article in The Atlantic, and, dating platforms, I think it was like Match.com, OkCupid, were really starting to take off. And the article was basically about a woman who was 80 or 90 at the time, and she was talking about her lover of 50 years. They would write letters to each other, and there would have to be days, sometimes weeks, waiting and seeing, am I going to get the letter back? And how much demand and lust that created in the in-between that's just been eliminated by the internet. And I almost wonder that, if paradox choice is causing so much pain within dating. And so it's interesting, some of the initiatives you're rolling out, like chemistry and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And I do think that it's a real challenge for us. We actually just started, I think yesterday, testing our center tab is the see who likes you, right? This is like a really important part of Tinder, and it's the page that shows you the people who have expressed interest in you. But one of the challenges with it is that for many people, they have these long columns of people that are interested, and it can be difficult to figure out who to pay attention to, right? So this new design that we're working on is really trying to highlight who is on that list that really, really is like the diamond in the rough, the needle in the haystack. And similarly, when you get to that messages tab, is there a way for us to do a better organization of that, to really highlight the people who you have active conversations with, who we think maybe you haven't kicked off a conversation yet, but we think they're really like high compatibility? These are things that are great questions that we're really like constantly thinking about. For me, I've only been at Tinder for 6 months. And with that, our CEO has joined just a few months before I did. And there is a newfound focus on outcomes and on these active conversations. So it gives us this new ability to look at designs that really haven't changed for many years and rethink them based on those new metrics.
Do you have any data on how many users are using Tinder for friendships, or how much friendships are being formed? Because, there's a male loneliness epidemic right now. A lot of people are lonely post-pandemic, work from home. Even your moderator on your talk, she said, I haven't used Tinder in ages. I'm married, right? And so, the zeitgeist still imagines Tinder for romantic relationships. And so is the friendship component still important for the product?
Yeah, so I think that people come to Tinder and will continue to come to Tinder for the possibility of a romantic spark. But I think friendship is often the result. So I was talking to a college student actually last week, and she told this great story about meeting up with a guy on her campus who went to her school, who she never met before, but she met because of the app. They met and they went and they had boba. They realized after 15 minutes, there isn't really a spark. So they parted ways as friends. They see each other in class. They're totally cool with each other. It's a friendship. They didn't set out to be friends. They set out to be something potentially more, but the result was positive. I think they both went back to Tinder and are now trying to find people that they might have that spark with. So I think friendship can totally happen, but we are still focused on, singles with the romantic intent. There's hundreds of millions of singles out there. So I think there's quite a lot more we can do for that before we kind of start branching out to friendship.
Okay. So a survey found that 78% of dating app users feel emotionally, mentally, or physically exhausted by the experience of swiping and matching, this notion of swipe fatigue. So we talked about it a little bit, but any plans to essentially, that you can confirm today, that we might not have the swipe feature anymore and do another UI experience?
Yeah, there's a lot of things we're doing there. I think that I love the swipe. I actually think people love the swipe. I think what they don't like is having to swipe so much for the outcome. The gesture is a great gesture, but if we look back, Tinder has been primarily for many years just a few photos. And there isn't enough information for people to really figure out what they can connect to. So we are revitalizing profiles. We're figuring out what content we should show. We're working on our algorithms to essentially be able to personalize and give people connection faster. But then we're also building new features for people that don't want to swipe. Chemistry is a great example where if you are not interested in the core Tinder experience, you can answer a handful of questions and we can deliver you a small number of highly personalized recommendations. And then we're also building things like modes, which I'm excited about, which are kind of new ways to use Tinder. So we have now live double date mode as well as college mode. So double date, essentially you pick a friend and you partner with them and you can swipe on other double date pairs. It still is swiping, but the experience is different. You're now only seeing other people that want to double date. So again, it kind of brings me back to this belief that people actually don't mind the swiping. They mind swiping hundreds of times before they get to that positive connection.
Interesting. So you want to almost find that balance between what's a good amount of swipes, let's say per day, not too much, but not too little, still have the options.
Yeah. I think I also believe that people want to see a variety of other people. So ultimately, I really do believe that the ideal experience is not just one recommendation a day. I think it is a variety. We just want to make it enjoyable and we need to make it quicker. We don't want people spending, dozens of hours swiping endlessly and not finding that success. So I do think that we want to reduce some of the swiping and improve the quality of profiles and give people new ways to use Tinder if, in fact, they do need a change.
So this chemistry feature that you're testing in Australia, New Zealand, you said they're going to have maybe one or two matches per day. Yeah. But they can also do the traditional swiping?
Yep.
Okay.
So chemistry right now is actually the second tab. We have Explore typically. We've replaced Explore with chemistry. So for users in New Zealand and Australia, it's got a home down there so they can bypass kind of the main swipe stack experience if they choose to.
So I'm sure you would say the same, but I have friends in at least a dozen cities who say the words, dating sucks in my city. In London, the dating is the worst in London. The dating is so bad in LA. Do you have any data to actually, kind of quantify if dating is better in some cities or another? I mean, obviously these are anecdotes, but I feel like a lot of people just tend to say that about whatever city they're in.
That's such a good question. I don't have the data on hand, but what we do look at is we look at the percentage of people that are using our products that are finding success. And success for us is quality multi-way conversations that ultimately lead to people getting off the product. So we look at that and we look at different geographies and we try to figure out why is it working here more than here? Is it an issue with a feature? Is it a cultural issue? Can we do a better job? I don't have the data to know. It's actually really interesting. I do know offhand because I was really involved with the development of Double Date. Double Date is crushing it in the Nordics. So I'm not sure exactly why that is and what that says, but I can tell you that in the Nordics, it is it's everywhere.
Wow.
So that is where that is really, really kicking off.
Interesting. How does Gen Z's approach to dating differ from millennials?
I think that there's a desire for a lower pressure experience. I think Tinder has been a little bit of a hot or not for many years. And it can feel high pressure, both to create a profile and be represented that way, but also to make those quick decisions based solely on a photo. So I think that what Gen Z wants, which makes a lot of sense to me, is they want to go at their own pace. They want lower pressure and they want a reason to kick off a conversation that's not so physical, right? So they want to bond over a shared interest, a life experience, which I think is authentic. That's actually more like what happens in the real world when you meet through friends or meet through activities. And I think that's how we have to evolve as Tinder. We've been a very similar product for many years. And that's why I'm excited to be here and know that in 6 months from now, when you use Tinder, it's going to look very different from the Tinder that people used 6 months ago.
Interesting. Well, excited to see those changes, especially with AI. I think AI has been, being in San Francisco, every single billboard you see is AI. Has Tinder been maybe kind of the mindset that we don't necessarily need to be first here, but we want to, take our time and do it right?
I think we want to be early and have been early to adopt a lot of AI tools in different ways. We were an early partner with OpenAI for both the API usage as well as even ChatGPT Enterprise inside the company. So we are using AI as a team to help us build products, to help us prototype and design products, to help us with data analysis. And then we are using it throughout the app, but I think we're using it in ways that is less expected. So for us, we use AI to help people connect IRL, right? We want to use it to help assist people and not replace them with chatbots. So for us, we use it to reduce friction and solve problems during onboarding, with photo selection. We use it to improve safety, like the FaceCheck. We use it to help people get better matches, like chemistry. So it is really woven into the product in many different ways. But in some ways, it's just not as front and center and out as some of the other companies that are putting billboards up.
Interesting. My final question here is, I've done a lot of covering of the birth rate crisis in countries like South Korea, Japan, China, even the US. President Trump has said he wants to do more incentives for couples to either get married or have kids. Has Tinder been approached by any government to kind of make the app free in their country, or is that something you would consider?
I'm not aware specifically of Tinder specifically. As from a Match Group standpoint, we have a number of brands. Pairs in Japan, I believe, works with the Japanese government. I don't work at that product, so I'm not sure of the details, but I do think those things are happening. At Tinder specifically, I'm not aware of that, but I'm open to it for any.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, you know what? All these countries, that's where they should be putting their money. I mean, incentivize for babies for sure, but you got to create the tools as well. Well, cool. Is there any trend in dating that has completely surprised you since you've taken this role?
I think I'm surprised by how much double date has taken off. I think we've all I've grown up hearing about double dating, but have never had the opportunity to do it. I think that is something that when we pitched the idea, some people just kind of didn't necessarily get it, but it's very clear that for Gen Z specifically that it's working. Double date's available to all of our users, but I think 90% of our double date users are under 30. So it's clear to me that I was like, oh, wow, we've really struck a chord with that feature, with that age group.
It kind of is like you said, it's a lower pressure way to experience something. Right. And I almost feel like if the date is bad, you have your friend or your best friend next to you that you can go laugh about it with later.
No, honestly, I think everything's better with friends, right? A good date with a friend there is amazing. And if the date is a little bit awkward, it's a little bit funny, you have awesome stories to talk about. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
You're a very busy guy, so really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of What's Uptin, where I bring you inside the minds driving tech, money, and power. Follow along on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow my personal account on Instagram @Uptin. Would love to connect with you.